Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Distance Dialogues. I know that usually Claire would be here hosting these episodes, but unfortunately she won't be hosting this one because she's going to be our guest.
Yay!
So Claire is our Parent Liaison Officer, so we thought it would be wonderful to talk to her today about what she does and what it's like to be a home tutor and have her share all of her tips and tricks for home tutors. So Claire, you're usually the one asking the questions. How does it feel to be on the other side today?
Thanks for having me, Ingrid. It does feel a bit strange to be on the other side, to be very honest with you. But I think it actually suits because part of my role involves a lot of listening. Today, I'm going to be listening to your questions and I'm going to be sharing the information and the knowledge that I've learnt predominantly from other home tutors on how to be a parent liaison officer. And that's what I'm going to share with you today.
Wonderful. I can't wait. So you have such a unique role here at Cairns STE. For anyone who might not be familiar with what a parent liaison officer does, how would you explain what you do?
So the way I explain what a parent liaison officer does, because it's actually a unique role only for distance education schools. They don't usually have this role in any public or private or independent schools. So I see myself as the conduit between yourselves as home tutors and parents and the larger school as a whole. So you ask me questions and sometimes I can answer them straight away, but sometimes I need to go out into our school community, find the people that are most appropriate to answer them, either bring you back those answers or perhaps even bring you closer to that person that you need to ask those questions of.
Wonderful. And what kinds of questions or concerns do parents and home tutors most often come to you with?
I talk with home tutors of both new families, current families, and just families who might be struggling in general. But I also talk to families that are doing really well. They might not feel like they are at the time, but I often talk to families that are really quite good at what they do and their students are achieving and they're thriving as little humans. So I find myself at all different stages of the learning journey that the student goes on, and some of the most common questions that I get asked are things like, what is my role? What does the school expect of me? How can I help my student achieve and thrive? Often I get a lot of questions about access, so like, how do I get onto that learning platform? Why can't I find the things that I'm looking for? And how do I go about showing my child how to do certain things that they're expected to know how to do? So we talk a lot about connection. We talk a lot about finding out the right person to ask the questions to. And you'll often hear the term connect teacher. So that teacher is the person that you will connect with as a family and as a student, and they will know most of the answers to all of your questions. They are a teacher themselves, so they teach other subjects too, but they will get assigned to you at the start of your journey. They know a lot about the learning platform that we use and how things are structured at our school. They are a person that you want to get to know and you want to feel comfortable asking questions of because they're a wealth of knowledge about what goes on here at Cairns SDE. Make it your priority to connect with them, and you can do that in many different ways. Email seems to be what works best for our teachers, considering they have timetables in addition to your child's timetable and they have other roles that they might often play at the school. The other sorts of questions I get are dependent on the year level that your child is in. So for example, once you're coming into year 10, there are senior pathways interviews that will set you up for your senior secondary schooling, and you have interviews with teachers and year level coordinators and vet coordinators and university specialists and guidance officers, etc. So that's an example of year level questions. And of course, when you're going into high school, that's quite a big change as well. So you'll go from having 1 or 2 or 3 main teachers in primary school that you establish relationships with and you know who to ask certain questions to. But then when you go into high school, you'll have a different teacher for every subject, which is common throughout all schools. So you'll also have a connect teacher in the high school environment as well, and they're a really good go-to resource for you.
So have you noticed any recurring challenges that a lot of people have in common?
Yeah, so when your learning journey is starting with Cairns SDE, you may come across some access issues. Wait until your Connect teacher is in touch with you, because they have everything that you need to know. They know where you need to go, how to get there. They know your secret passwords that they'll give to you, and then you can change them, and they'll know all about access. But it's a good idea to wait. Sometimes we find ourselves trying to overcome challenges when we don't have all the information. And so in those situations, I'd encourage you to either just wait for during that first week of the term or during the first week of the year, or come to someone like me as the parent liaison officer or your Connect teacher and just put the question out there before you get too bogged down with trying to work it out yourself. Show some initiative, like go to the places that you usually get these answers from. Try what you think is the right way to do it, but sometimes it's good to just reach out and find out directly. The other concerns that often come up are about the student specifically. So sometimes you might choose Cairns SDE because you might have some concerns about your child at this stage of their lives. You might have concerns about their learning, or they may be struggling in some other way. So when this happens, the best first step for you is to go directly to your Connect teacher. Your Connect teacher works with you to understand the situation, and they're the ones that can identify the most appropriate staff member to help your child. They'll refer your concern on to the right person in our team, and that will ensure that your child receives the best support that they need. It's also good to try, not always easily possible, but try to work out what it is they're struggling with. You might find that it's a particular subject that they're having difficulties with. You might find that they can't read the codes on their timetable, or you might find that it's a lot deeper than that, and it's best to go through the right personnel to find out some external support if they're warranted. Some of the other challenges might include the content itself, and I always say the teacher that teaches the subject is the guru of that subject. So if you have any questions about Julius Caesar in history, for example, or about the book 1984, or about some of the primary school maths and phonics that they're going through, and sometimes it can be pretty difficult because you may not have gone to that area of learning when you did school, or you may not have gone to that level or whatever. The subject teacher is the master of their subject. We have some very, very talented teachers at our school. And yes, please go directly to them. You'll find their emails on our website, and they will be able to help you with those questions.
What would you say to somebody who is considering enrolling at Cairns SDE, and specifically about becoming a home tutor?
Becoming a home tutor can be a daunting pathway to start on. It does have a significant level of required work that's involved in it, but I try and flip it around a bit, and I would ask of you, what is right for your child right now? Try not to think about senior secondary and if they're going to make it to year 11 and 12 and what's suitable for them and how they're going to cope. Or try not to think about if they're going to continue at Cairns SDE for high school and trying to have seamless transitions and things like that. Think about right now. Think about, what is your child coping with right now? What is your child achieving right now? What will this change mean for them? And you might find that we're your perfect fit for now. So whether that be from prep to year 12, whether it be from year 6 to year 8, it doesn't matter. It's really good to just think about, what do they need right now, and can this school match what they need at the moment?
Beautiful. And in your mind, what is the role of the home tutor? So how would you describe it?
The home tutor's role is of support and supervision. We need to remember that here at Cairns SDE, just like at every other school in Australia, we have very capable teachers that teach the Australian curriculum to our students. The role of the home tutor is to help the student be in a position to learn distance education. So that help can come in a variety of ways. It can start in creating an environment that's suitable for learning. It can be an environment that, depending on the child's likes and dislikes, might be full of colour and whimsical poetry on the walls, or maybe really motivational text that helps them feel part of their learning journey. The environment is where you start, and it can be really quite important for how they feel when they're learning. And then those support and supervisory kind of roles continue, and you can't set in stone exactly how many hours it will be. You can't tell how much work it will be. It's all very dependent on the student. So if you're helping them to manage their time well, if you're helping them to be organised, if you're helping them to read their work rate calendars and make sure they have their work handed in on time, that is what the expectations are. And that could take anywhere from 20 minutes a day to 3, 4, 5 hours a day, especially if your child's in primary school and they may not have those elite level executive functioning skills like some adults do. Just take it step by step and work out what your child needs, because all little humans are individual. If you work out what is going to help them achieve in the best way that they can. And sometimes you might think, well, if I print out their work rate calendar for them every time, are they ever going to learn? But if you're having a conversation with them every week about their work rate calendar, if you're sitting them down and talking about what's due next week, what was unfinished this week that we need to catch up on, asking questions like this, then you most definitely are contributing to their future and to their understanding of how to be a distance education student. So it takes a bit of working out, and there's hurdles along the way, but remember that there's people here like myself, Clare as the parent liaison officer, and also your connect teachers and your subject teachers that will have little tips and hints for you to make the journey easier.
Nice. Can you tell us more about your role and specifically what you enjoy about it?
I feel pretty blessed to be a parent liaison officer. I feel like it's just a really special role to have in a school. And I have the opportunity of being part of the inner dynamics of a family and conversations that is directly contributing to a child's opportunity to thrive in their education. And so that feels pretty special. And it's actually in the toughest moments where it's the most rewarding, because, for example, if I don't know the answer to a question, I think this is an opportunity for me to learn something more about this amazing school. It's a chance for me to learn about how kids operate differently, not dependent on age or personality or neurodiversity or maturity or anything like that. It's just that all our little humans are pretty individual, and it's wonderful if we can come up with new and exciting ways that help them learn.
Definitely. Would you say that the role of a home tutor is a difficult one? What makes it hard, and what can help to alleviate some of the challenges?
I'll be very honest. Yes, it can be quite difficult, especially if you, for example, have a child in year 10 that's learning content that you never learnt when you went to school, especially if you have a child that's in primary school that's learning phonics in a totally different way that you learnt to read when you were of that age. A lot has changed. It's not going to be the same as it was when you went to school. You can rely on the wonderful teachers here. They are really, really good. And you can reach out to them. They love any opportunity to see emails from their families and to be able to interact with them and connect with them. So I think if you remember what it's not, what home tutoring is not, then you can take away some of those stresses and concerns and worries. Like if you remind yourself that you're not expected to be a teacher, that takes a huge weight off your shoulders. So it can be hard, but just remind yourself what it really is. You're there to supervise and you're there to support. So that's supervising their time, as in making sure they're on task and encouraging them to be on task and to be motivated. And it's also supporting them. So one really good way of doing that is to have a home tutor student conversations. Now these could be at the end of the week or middle of the week or midterm. You kind of work out what works in your family. And one way to do it is to have a similar place or a similar times, because another thing that makes the home tutor role hard is the fact that you wear a lot of different hats. You're a parent as well. You might have a job too. You might be a volunteer for sports organisations on the weekend or something. But remind yourself when you're doing your home tutoring, that's the hat that you put on. That's the conversations and the types of language that you use with your students. environment and you set routines up for them so they're becoming better at being prepared themselves, managing their time and being organised and always ready to learn. So those home tutor student conversations, similar place, similar time, similar questions come out. It can be a really rewarding experience too, because if you're having these regular conversations with your kids, then it's likely going to be quite a bonding experience too. And as we know and have heard, perhaps if we don't have teenagers ourselves, moving into those more difficult adolescent stages, this might not be as easy as it was when they're in primary school. So having this reason and this situation that you're there every week and available for them and showing them how to do things can really contribute to the relationship as well.
Are some students quite independent when it comes to distance learning?
Very much so. Some people think that maybe primary school, it's quite a full-time kind of a support and supervisory kind of a role, and then maybe high school they start to get independent. But you'd be surprised perhaps that sometimes years 7 to 9 students, they have to learn those skills. They don't just wake up, go to school when they start year 7 and know how to be really prepared for things or really manage their time. No, they have to practice. It takes years and years of practice. And it was really interesting the other day when I was talking to a primary school parent who is really loving her journey at the school because it makes it possible for her to spend time with her kids and her younger ones that are not yet part of learning at Cairns School of Distance Ed. She said that in the first couple of years, at them being in the younger primary years, it was pretty constant one-on-one time needed to be with them to make sure they were focused on their lessons, make sure they were getting all their work handed in. But now that they're distance ed students, now that they've been learning our way of learning for a couple of years, they're getting those skills. Even though they're only 10, they've become way more organised than they were. They've become way more motivated than they were. And she's really proud of them for it. And she's also really impressed that the school system is what has put them in this position to be really ready for learning. She doesn't feel like that perhaps may not have happened in mainstream schooling because there's so much for all those kids and teachers to concentrate on. Who knows? But she's pretty happy with where she is right now.
That's amazing. Is distance education the type of experience that can be done on the road?
It most definitely can. So we have students that are not on the road necessarily, but they're in a boat all the time, which is pretty cool. We have a lot of students that travel around Australia, and Cairns School of Distance Education actually used to be called Cairns School of the Air, and it was predominantly isolated families. So I'd say 90% of the families lived in really remote areas. So even today, they still don't have perfect internet connection, and they're pretty resilient people, though they can always find their way around how to work things out and do things. But you can literally do it anywhere. We have another family that are a lovely bunch of people that are reasonably close to Cairns, but they're not actually considered in the Cairns cluster, so they're not considered isolated either. But every Thursday, they hop in the car and they head out to a place on the Tablelands, which is a strawberry farm, and they do their schooling there every Thursday.
Aww.
So it's a lovely new environment where they can be at one with nature, but it's also still a fresh and new environment, so they can share their stories about what they're doing with other teachers and classmates, and they can just be in a new, nice, fresh, clean space for continued learning.
Oh, beautiful. Considering being a home tutor can be daunting, I'm sure there are certain qualities and skills that parents or grandparents would perceive that they require. Can you delve into some of the myths and truths surrounding this role?
Yes, and I'm really glad that you said the word grandparents, because we're increasingly having more and more grandparents take up this role of home tutorship, and they find it an incredibly rewarding role. And again, they're getting that opportunity to bond with their grandchildren, so it's really wonderful. I guess my main recommendation is to be prepared. So there's systems and steps for everything. So that doesn't mean that you can follow them and it will come about perfectly, but it does mean that there are ways of doing things step by step and systematically that can make it an easier job for yourself as the home tutor, and also in a routine can be picked up really easily by the student too. Little ideas are things like print out your timetable, come to the events workshops, and also make agreements about times and expectations with your student too. So there's some little recommendations that I came up with. Also making sure that whether it's every day, at the end of the week, or midterm, or all of those, check in and find out how they're going. So at the start of that conversation, it could be about, did you get this particular work return done? How far off are you from finishing it? What do we need to do to complete it? What's due next week? What can we get started on now? How do we chunk that out so we're not doing it all in the last minute? And then working out if you've got any questions for the teachers too. There's some little ways of kind of easing that pathway for you to make it an enjoyable experience as well.
Beautiful. Thank you, Claire. Can you remind us how people can contact you if they'd like to get in touch?
I would love to. So all my details are on the website, but you can email me PLO, which stands for Parent Liaison Officer, at cairns, sde.eq.edu.au. You can send me a message via our Facebook Messenger system. You can call me as well. If you call the main line for reception and ask for Clare or ask for the Parent Liaison Officer, and I should be here. And I look forward to hearing from you, because working at distance education makes you feel like those moments of connection are all that more special, because meeting people and getting to know them and helping them on their journey is very, very rewarding.
Are there any other ways that people can make contact with the school or learn more, or any other resources that could support them in their home tutor journey?
Indeed, there is. Thank you for reminding me about that, Ingrid. We have a special page on our website dedicated to parent resources. So there's multiple tiles, and inside when you go in, you'll find multiple sources of information that could be very helpful, whether you're a new family or whether you're a continuing family and just looking for a bit of inspiration. These podcasts, they're a valuable source of information as well, and it can be quite fun, and you learn things that you don't expect to learn. The Home Tutor Connect sessions, I conduct these twice a term, so they're usually in weeks 3 and week 7, but they're always twice a term. And I sometimes get some guest speakers on, and I usually have a bit of a PowerPoint that I show, and it's pretty much just tips and hints of how to be the best home tutor you can be, always based on the majority of the questions that I get. So it's suitable for all year levels, all lengths of terms of service of home tutors as well. And then finally, I do workshops at our community engagement events. So the Parent Liaison Officer role is a member of the partnerships team, and we conduct the community engagement events. In term 1 and term 3, in week 10, the final week, we have a mini school where we go out to all the clusters. It's kind of like a pop-up school out there in the different regions. There's workshops for both the students and for the home tutors as well. The home tutors are just in the mornings. But it's also a really good way to network, because I always say the best way to learn about being a home tutor is to meet other home tutors. I look forward to meeting you and hopefully helping you along your journey.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us about your role. And I think that brings us to the end of our first podcast episode of the year. Thank you for listening to the Distance Dialogues, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me.